A warning: the choice isn't always yours. Have you ever wondered how far the desire for quick wealth can push you? In a single moment, one decision can change the entire course of your life. Some paths may seem like tempting shortcuts, but they can lead you to a world you never imagined. A dark world where all principles are lost and the price of trust is incredibly high. The story of Liam isn't just an adventure. It's a harsh lesson about the cost of bad decisions. Every step he took, every promise he heard, was just a thread in a complex web of lies. Now, with the terrifying truth behind these machines revealed, our heroes find themselves in a real battle for survival. Here, trust is the greatest danger, and escape is the only goal. Can Liam survive this dark web? And will he be able to expose those who betrayed him before it's too late? In the previous episodes, a minor laptop issue leads Liam to a lucrative partnership with his friends Jack and Mark to build a secret Bitcoin farm in Toronto, Canada. But a critical mistake by Liam causes the entire operation to fail spectacularly. The mysterious Zane arrives, revealing the machines were actually a front for a dark web data center, and he captures both Liam and Jack with a sinister plan to traffic their organs. We went down to get in the car with Zane. As we were getting in, I looked and saw Mark standing far away, sitting inside his car. At that moment, I felt relieved because I knew someone would know where we were going. He might follow us and find out where we end up, and then he'd be able to do something. The moment we started to drive, Zane called someone on the phone. He said, "I have 2 packages with me. We're on our way to you now. Get ready." And the money, as we agreed. "I'll be there in an hour." He hung up. Jack and I were sitting in the back, terrified. We didn't know what Zane was going to do to us. But Jack was more scared than me. From the moment he saw Zane, he hadn't said a word. I looked at Zane and said, "Zane, we're friends. We've broken bread together." Zane was sitting in the front passenger seat. He turned to me and said, "That's the problem, Liam. We've broken bread together. But you got involved in my business, and there's no room for feelings or friendships in business. You know, Liam, when I got into this, I put my morals and feelings aside. And please, don't keep bothering us, or I'll have this guy next to you put tape over your mouth." Honestly, I went silent. The car kept going until we were on the highway. We kept driving until a hospital appeared. Zane pointed at it and told the driver, "We'll go into the alley next to the hospital." The hospital was in a remote area on the desert highway, so remote that I thought it was abandoned. It looked gloomy. When the driver entered the alley with the car, Zane pointed to the back. "We'll go in the back door, not the front." He drove around the back of the hospital. When he parked, we got out. Zane walked ahead of us. 2 bodyguards held my arms so I couldn't run, and 2 bodyguards held Jack's arms so he couldn't run. We went into the hospital through the back door. The moment we walked in, there was no one inside. The place we entered looked like a delivery area. The smell was disgusting, and everything was messy. We kept walking until we got to a large, scary-looking freight elevator. We all got in, and Zane pressed the button for the 2nd floor. The elevator shook violently as it went up. The elevator was very old. When the doors opened, we saw a long hallway. There were broken beds and medical supplies lying everywhere. It looked like the floor was abandoned and was being used as a storage room. We were the only ones making any noise. I was walking with them, terrified. I couldn't understand why Zane was taking us to this hospital. We turned left, then right, until we found a doctor standing in front of a room. He was wearing a dirty white coat with yellow stains and bloodstains on it. He was tall, pale, and looked old, maybe 56 or 57 years old. He was smoking a cigarette and playing on his phone. The moment he saw Zane, he put his phone in his pocket and frowned, yelling. He said, "Listen, I've told you 100 times I don't like surprises. I told you so many times. When you're coming, tell me a week in advance so I can prepare myself." Zane argued with him. He said, "You know I'd never do that because I have a right to protect myself too." The doctor said, "Okay, fine, there's no time to talk. Let's go in." He took a set of keys from his pocket and opened the room he was standing in front of. We went into the room. It was big but dirty, as if it was a storeroom that had been turned into an operating room. A filthy operating room. There was broken medical equipment inside, and the air was thick with the smell of blood. There were bloodstains on the floor. There were 2 large stainless steel beds, the kind they put bodies on, in the middle of the room. The doctor pointed at the beds and told the bodyguards to put us on them. They started to push us, and we struggled, but what could we do? They put us on the beds and brought chains. They wrapped them around us so we couldn't move and locked them with padlocks. The chains were very tight. At that moment, I felt like this was it. This was the end. I was sure I wouldn't leave this place in one piece. I asked, "What are you going to do to us, Zane? What are you going to do?" I was terrified. He turned to me and said, "Look, Liam, because I like you, I'll let you be a part of something good." I asked, "What good thing?" He said, "We'll take your organs and donate them to someone who needs them more than you do." At that moment, I started to yell, heartbroken. I screamed, "Zane, I will never leave you alone. As long as I'm alive and breathing, I'll never let you get away with this." I yelled so much that he gestured to his men and told them to put tape over my mouth. They did. I was going crazy, tied up with tape on my mouth, and I couldn't do anything. Jack then called out to Zane, "Zane, untie me, and I'll be with you." Zane asked him, "Are you sure about that? You know, if you work with me and you try anything, or I tell you to do something and you do it, or you try to escape." He said, "I'll burn you alive, Jack." Jack said, "I agree to everything you say." Zane gestured to his bodyguards and told them to untie him. The moment they started to untie Jack, the doctor turned to Zane. He said, "You're crazy. You're putting all of us in danger." Zane yelled at him, "What? Are you going to tell me what to do and what not to do? Mind your own business." The doctor turned away, looking very annoyed. Zane then turned and looked at me. He said, "Don't worry, Liam. You're in the hands of the biggest surgeon on the dark web for selling organs. You'll just feel a pinprick and nothing else." Then he left me and went to the doctor. He said to him, "You'll do his analysis. And in 4 days, when the results are clean, you'll send $3 million to my bank account." Then he left them and walked away. Of course, I looked at the doctor, terrified. I was going to die from fear. My eyes started to water. I couldn't imagine him opening my body and taking all my organs while I was still alive. He was so calm and cold. He looked at me and said, "I promise you won't feel a thing. We just need to take some of your blood and do some tests to make sure you re-clean." He put a needle in my arm and started to take blood. He told me, "Tomorrow morning, we'll start the procedure." Then he left me, went out of the room, and I heard him lock the door. The moment the doctor left me, I started to try and get my arms out or free myself from the chains. But they were tied on very tightly. I kept trying, and with the tape on my mouth, I couldn't breathe. I knew there wasn't any time, and my time was running out. I had to free myself from the chains. I didn't stop trying. After about an hour, I managed to get one hand out. The moment my hand was free, I took the tape off my mouth and started to breathe. I calmed down and got my thoughts together. Then I started to try and untie myself. After a lot of struggle, I finally freed myself from the chains. I got up and tried to run and find a way out of the room. Unfortunately, the room was completely locked. There was no way to escape. I started to think, what can I do? I looked and saw the keys to the padlocks on the desk. That's when I had an idea. I thought, I'll lie down just like I was. I'll put the chains on me as if I'm tied up, but I won't lock them. I'll take a sharp tool, a knife, or a scalpel, and when he comes close to me, I'll hit him with it. I sat next to the door until I heard the elevator make a loud thud because it was so old. I ran to the bed, lay down, put the chains on me, and held a small knife or scalpel in my hand. I pretended to be asleep and closed my eyes. The surprise was that when the door opened, the doctor wasn't alone. He had someone with him, who was probably the doctor's assistant. I heard the doctor say to him, "He's asleep now. Give him the shot quickly while I get the ice ready to put the organs in. Come on, let's start." The man came toward me and was about to take my arm to give me the shot. With my other hand, I stabbed him in the neck with the knife. The moment I stabbed him, blood started to come out all over me and everywhere else. I quickly jumped off the bed. I saw the doctor coming at me, so I pushed him, and he fell. I took off running. I ran until I was out of the hospital's back door. I saw a police car with an officer and some soldiers standing there. I knew Mark had called the police. I ran to the officer and said, "Help me. There's a crazy man in there selling organs." He said, "Calm down, son. Go see what's going on." "What's going on?" I asked. "There's a man who wanted to cut me up and sell my organs." Okay, come with me," he said. He took out his gun, and with the other soldiers, he went inside. I showed him the way until we got to the room. But we went inside, and there was no one there. Not the man I stabbed in the neck, not the old doctor, not anyone. Where did they go? The officer took out his walkie-talkie and said, "I need backup now." 5 minutes later, Backup came and surrounded the hospital, and they searched every inch of it, but they found no one. I went to the officer and said, "Where's Mark?" He asked, "Mark who?" I said, "Mark who called the police to save me." He said, "No one called us to save you. There was an accident on the highway, and the injured were taken to this hospital. We were coming to take witness statements." The officer said, "We have to file a report on what happened." He brought a file and started to take my statement. I told him I was walking down the street when some men attacked me and took me to the hospital. I couldn't tell him we were building servers for the dark web and get myself into trouble. The officer finished the report and told me, "Take care of yourself. I'll send a car to take you home now." He made sure I was okay and had a police car drive me home. I went home, but at that moment, all I could think about was revenge. I wasn't going to let Zane get away with this. I knew where I could find him. He had to be at the data center we built. I put on my clothes, grabbed a knife, and went to the apartment. I started to go up the stairs carefully. With caution, I started to open the apartment door. The lock was still broken. I opened the door and went in until I got to the room where the servers were. To my surprise, the room was empty. All that was left was the desk and chairs. I looked under the desk and found the phone I had hidden. I grabbed my phone and left the apartment. I went home. I tried to call Mark, but his phone was off. I was so confused. Mark's phone was off. He wasn't the one who called the police, and all the stuff was gone from the apartment. I didn't understand what was happening. I couldn't sleep until the next morning. The next morning, I went to the company. The first thing I did was go to the HR department. I asked about Mark. They told me he wasn't there. He had resigned by email. He always used to hang out with a guy named Jack. So I went to Jack and asked him, "Jack, do you know where Mark is?" He said, "He resigned by email, but when I called him, he said he was traveling outside of Canada. He told me he sent you and Jack an email." "What email?" The moment he said that, I took out my phone and quickly opened my email. I found a message from Mark that said, "We couldn't tell you that this was a dark web business because you never would have agreed to join us." Wait for the next parts and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive all that is new.